Papoose does not know it yet, but the roof is already off. The hotel footage nobody was ever supposed to see, the audio that was never meant to leave a private phone, the messages sitting inside Tasha K's inbox right this exact second, every single one of them is loaded, cocked, and pointed directly at the man who genuinely believed a stack of paper from a lawyer could freeze a story that had already gone completely nuclear on the timeline. Toseki is trending in 3 different corners of the internet at the exact same time. Claressa Shields is being tagged in comment sections she absolutely did not sign up for. Remy Ma just opened her mouth on camera and confirmed the exact incident her still legal husband hired an attorney to formally deny in writing. And Papoose, the man standing at the dead center of every single inch of this wildfire, keeps making the exact moves that turn a burning house into a burning block, and then a burning block into a burning skyline the whole industry can see from a mile away. So welcome in, welcome back. This is where we pour the receipt straight, no chaser, no watered down version of the truth for the timid. Today we walk through every single page of what Tasha K just laid on the table, and I promise you, on everything, every single page is uglier than the one before it. Because the story you thought you were watching for the last 12 months, the one with the ringside kisses, the courtside photo ops, the boyfriend of the year headlines, the woman in love interviews, the whole neatly packaged fairy tale romance the internet was fed and dutifully swallowed with a smile on its face, that story is not the story. Not even close. The story is what was actually happening in the hours between the photos. The story is who was actually on the other end of the messages that were never intended for public eyes. The story is a divorce decree that still, in the year of our Lord 2026, has not been signed by a single judge in a single courtroom. The story is a wife who never actually left the paperwork, no matter how many separation announcements were posted to Instagram. And the story is a third woman whose name Papoose has done everything humanly possible to keep away from the timeline, off the blogs, out of the podcasts, and behind the closed doors he believed would stay closed forever. Tasha K has that name. Tasha K has the footage. Tasha K has the audio. Tasha K has the screenshots. Tasha K has the timestamps. And Papoose, instead of getting quiet the way any rational man would have gotten quiet 100 moves ago, keeps handing her more and more ammunition to reload the receipt cannon with. Let us walk it back to where the very first crack in the story showed. That fight. You remember it. Yes, that one. The one where Papoose was ringside, hat backwards, energy up, veins in his neck, the crowd going absolutely wild every single time the broadcast camera cut to his corner. The one where every gossip blog and every commentary channel on the internet said, okay, this must be real, look at him, look at how invested he is, look at how he is screaming for her, this cannot possibly be a stunt. That image is the exact reason a lot of people who had legitimate doubts finally caved and gave the whole relationship the benefit of the doubt. That image is the reason the "she stole him from Remy" storyline quietly flipped into, no, this is actually love, leave them alone and let them enjoy each other. That single image sold the entire romance to a deeply skeptical black internet in a way 10 years of interviews could not have sold it. And that image, according to what Tasha K has now put on the record with sources she says she can back up in writing, was a booking. Not a boyfriend. A booking. Papoose was contracted to perform at that event. There was a fee attached. There was an agreement signed. There was a bag of money hooked directly onto his presence in that arena. The man the entire world watched cheering for his so-called woman was, in the smallest print of the smallest document, an employee of the promotion. The most iconic moment of the entire relationship was a business deal in wedding clothes. And once you understand that one detail, that one single reframe, the whole rest of the picture stops making sense in the way it used to and starts making sense in a much darker, much more calculated way. Because if the most public, most photographed, most emotionally charged, most GIF-able, most screenshotted moment of the entire romance was actually a scheduled paid performance with an invoice attached, then what exactly was the private part supposed to be? What was the version of the relationship that nobody was ever allowed to see? What did the man look like when the cameras cut and the check finally cleared? What did the goodnight texts read like when there was no publicist to CC and no PR firm to run the language past? Tasha K says she now knows. Tasha K says the version of Papoose that lived off camera was a completely different production, with a completely different lead actress, with completely different lighting, and her name has been Toseki this entire time. Here is what Tasha K has laid out in the plainest language possible. While the country watched Papoose smiling for the cameras in Claressa's corner, he was allegedly building a full parallel relationship with Toseki entirely in the shadows. This was not a one-night thing. This was not a mistake that got out of hand at a party after too many drinks. This was not a single lapse in judgment. This was a running situation. Hotel meetings that were arranged like international espionage, with room numbers exchanged over encrypted apps and side entrances chosen for camera avoidance. Late-night phone calls that lasted 3, 4, 5 hours at a stretch, all the way until the sun came up. Voice notes long enough to fill an entire coast-to-coast flight home. Screenshots that read like love letters written by a man who had absolutely zero intention of ever being caught by anyone. Tasha K is not describing a slip. Tasha K is describing a second, secret, fully committed relationship that was running on its own private schedule right underneath the one every gossip page in America was covering in daily updates. And the detail that has the internet stopping mid-scroll and rewinding the same clip 3 and 4 times in a row is the tonal difference in the writing. The messages allegedly sent to Toseki are warm, emotional, vulnerable in a way that grown men almost never let themselves write down in text form, because the paper trail is forever. The version of Papoose in those messages is the version you only ever get when a man genuinely believes he has something real, and he trusts the person on the other end of the phone enough to let his entire guard drop and speak from the actual center of his chest with no filter running. The messages allegedly sent to Claressa in the exact same 48-hour window. Cold. Short. Distant. Professional. The tonal energy of a man managing a contract, not the tonal energy of a man communicating with the woman he loves and wants to build a life with. Same phone. Same fingers. Same 24-hour period. Two completely different human beings living inside one man's text history. And that single side-by-side comparison, before we even get to the hotel footage, before we even press play on the audio, before we even scroll to the second batch of screenshots, tells you everything you need to know about which relationship was carrying the actual emotional weight, and which one was carrying the press release for the streets. Now, this is where a normal man in the middle of a scandal of this magnitude would go quiet. This is where a normal man would call his people, lock down his socials, cancel a couple of scheduled interviews, wait for the news cycle to move on to somebody else's mess. This is where a normal man would understand, at a bone-deep, spine level, marrow level, generational level, that the more he flails, the more the story feeds itself. Papoose is not doing any of that. Papoose is doing the exact, precise, mathematical opposite. Papoose is unraveling in real time on the public timeline, and every single move he has made in response to this expose has poured more accelerant on the fire that was supposed to be dying down on its own. The cease and desist letters are the loudest, most spectacular example. Instead of speaking in his own voice, instead of sitting down with anyone credible and answering the actual allegations that have been made against him, instead of doing what Remy Ma has always done and just going live on the app and saying his piece in his own words, Papoose sends attorneys. Papoose sends paperwork. Papoose tries to freeze a full-scale media firestorm with a manila envelope and a legal signature at the bottom of a page. And every single time one of those envelopes goes out from Papoose's legal team, a brand new receipt from Tasha K comes right back in through the front door. Tasha K broke down exactly why this keeps happening, and once she said it out loud in her own words, the internet snapped it into focus in a way it had not before. Papoose, according to Tasha K, has been running an identical pattern his entire adult life. Remy Ma first. Then Claressa Shields. Now Toseki. And the mechanics of the pattern do not change from one woman to the next, not even slightly, not even in the small details anyone would notice. One woman is always the public face. She is the one attached to Papoose in the press. She is the one who gives him visibility, headlines, industry access, or in Claressa's specific case, allegedly an $8 million management structure and a boxing money bag deep enough to actually fund a rotating cast of lawyers on retainer for years. One woman is always the private truth. She is the one he calls when the cameras go dark and the arena empties out and the paid appearance is over. She is the one whose messages get the warmth the public wife never sees on her screen. And the cycle does not break when Papoose gets caught in the act. The cycle only rotates when the current public partner stops being useful enough to justify the daily performance of loving her in front of a camera. Remy Ma gave Papoose the launch pad when the streets alone were not opening any doors for him and his name alone was not big enough to book rooms. Claressa Shields allegedly gave Papoose the comeback platform, the ringside relevance, the management deal, the second act of a rap career that was already aging out of the algorithm and the streaming charts. Toseki, according to what Tasha K is now sitting on, gave Papoose something neither of those two women could ever give him, the version of intimacy Papoose stopped being able to fake for the public women. Claressa Shields thought she was finally in a love story with the man she had been waiting for. Claressa Shields was in a press release the entire time. And the difference between those two things is exactly what Tasha K has been trying to make the world see for months, and what the hotel footage and the audio and the messages allegedly prove in a way that no denial, no matter how professionally worded by no matter how expensive an attorney, can undo now. Now here is where we get to the beat that turned this from a gossip story into a full-scale meltdown broadcast live on the public timeline for anyone with Wi-Fi to witness. Tasha K said on record that Papoose put his hands on Remy Ma. Tasha K said Remy was pushed into a pool during an alleged altercation. Tasha K said there was a physical incident that ended in an injury and a hospital visit. And Papoose's response to Tasha K saying this out loud on camera was not a live stream. Was not a statement. Was not a phone call to any of his own fans on the app. His response was a formal cease and desist letter, drafted by a licensed attorney, delivered to Tasha K's inbox, demanding that she stop lying, retract the story, and cease making claims that Papoose was calling completely fabricated. In writing. Under seal. From an attorney representing him. Which the entire internet then had to reconcile with the small inconvenient detail that Remy Ma, the actual alleged victim in the entire situation, the woman the cease and desist was supposedly protecting Papoose's image around, walked in front of a camera weeks later and confirmed the story herself with no coaching, no proxy, no filter. Not through a hint dropped in a lyric on a track. Not through a subtweet from a burner. On record. Out loud. In her own voice. Yes. That happened. And you have to sit with the geometry of that one moment for a second, because it is important. Papoose's lawyer called Tasha K a liar. Papoose's wife proved Tasha K right. Papoose's own household delivered the exact receipt Papoose's own attorney was hired to bury. And this was not even a first-time misfire from Papoose. This is the second time in this exact same news cycle the same pattern has played out to the letter. When Remy Ma dropped her diss track, Papoose ran straight to the cease and desist playbook. Remy Ma responded by going live and dropping the bozo contact name, the crying audio file, the medical texts, the emergency room screenshots, the whole receipt drawer, right there on Instagram, for anyone with a working phone to see. When Tasha K then spoke on the pool incident, Papoose ran right back to the cease and desist playbook a second time in the same season. Remy Ma walked in front of a camera and confirmed the exact incident herself, on record, out loud, for the entire internet to hear and screenshot and repost. At this point, Papoose's cease and desist is no longer a legal strategy at all. It is a signed confession that Papoose's own attorney co-signed on his behalf without realizing it. Every letter Papoose mails out becomes the paperwork proving the exact thing he was trying to hide from the timeline in the first place. And that, right there, is the specific reason Tasha K is trending yet again this week. Because there is a mechanical reason her name keeps resurfacing every single time Papoose makes a move. Every legal envelope, every strategic silence, every calculated PR maneuver, every public appearance where Papoose tries to pretend nothing is landing on him, every single one of those moves pumps Tasha K's old footage straight back into the algorithm, screenshots her old messages straight back into the group chats, resurrects her old interviews straight back onto the front page of every gossip channel on YouTube. And the reason people keep coming back specifically to Tasha K in particular is because Tasha K is the one thread of this entire storyline that Papoose has never, not one single time, directly answered. Papoose answered Remy. Papoose answered the divorce chatter. Papoose answered the Claressa questions through carefully staged interviews on friendly podcasts. Papoose answered the diss track with legal paperwork mailed in an envelope. But when Tasha K's name comes up in a headline, complete silence. Nothing. Not a subtweet. Not a soft denial. Not a whispered rebuttal through a friendly podcaster or a paid blog running interference. Total, complete, deliberate, calculated, strategic silence. And that silence, that specific silence, is the loudest single piece of evidence in the entire case against Papoose. Because a man who is genuinely innocent of something says so. Loudly. Repeatedly. In interviews. On his story. In his songs. In his features. He denies. He clarifies. He clears his name because the accusation is threatening his image and his livelihood and his ability to get booked. The accusations Papoose can dispute, he disputes with paperwork. The accusations Papoose cannot dispute, he treats like they were never made in the first place. And in the psychology of a public figure managing a scandal of this size, that silence is not neutrality, no matter how anyone tries to spin it. That silence is the tell. That silence is the piece of information the audience is not supposed to notice, and Tasha K just put a spotlight the size of an entire stadium directly on top of it. And Tasha K is not close to being done. She has said it herself, in her own words, without hedging, without softening, without wiggle room. There is more coming. More footage. More audio. More screenshots. More names. More context. More paperwork. More timestamps. She is sitting on a queue of receipts that has not even started dropping in full yet, and based on what she has already put out and how each individual drop has landed on the timeline, whatever is next in the queue is going to detonate harder than everything before it combined. This is not a normal expose that peaks and cools off in a week. This is a receipt tsunami with a scheduled release cadence, and the tide has not even come all the way in yet. Now let us talk about the detail that makes every layer of this entire situation even more uncomfortable, because this is the part of the story that turns the whole public-facing romance into something the audience genuinely cannot unsee once it is pointed out plainly. Papoose is still legally married to Remy Ma. Right now. As you are watching this video. In August of 2026, more than a year after the separation was made public, after the diss track dropped, after the Toseki bombshell dropped, after the hotel footage started circulating, after the pool allegation went viral, after Remy Ma went on camera and confirmed, after the cease and desist letters flew like paper airplanes on a windy day, after every single meltdown moment you can name from the last 12 months, the divorce has not been finalized. The paperwork is not signed by a judge. The decree is not entered into the record. On the actual documents in the actual New York court, Papoose is still Remy Ma's husband on paper, on ink, on file. Which means every single public appearance Claressa Shields has made with Papoose as her partner, every interview where she talked about their future together, every post where she claimed him as hers on Instagram, every single one of those moments happened while, in the eyes of the state of New York, she was dating a married man. Claressa can say what she wants about it. Papoose can say what he wants about it. Remy Ma has already said what she wanted to say about it. The law says one thing, and the law does not care about optics or PR spin or carefully worded interview clips on friendly podcasts. He is still married. Full stop. Period. No asterisk. Which means we finally have to name what has actually been happening here in plain language, no dressing, no softening for anybody's comfort. Claressa Shields has been the public partner. She has been the one at the events. She has been the one in the branded photos. She has, per multiple reports from multiple credible sources across multiple platforms, been the one with the money paying for at least part of the legal machinery keeping this entire storm managed and contained inside a shrinking box. She has been out here presenting this whole relationship as her love story, her future, her chapter 2, her forever, her happily ever after. And on paper, in an actual courthouse, according to actual legal documents that anyone with a subpoena can pull tomorrow morning, she has been the other woman this entire time. The wife title never transferred. The wife title never became available in the first place. The wife title, legally and officially, still belongs entirely to Remy Ma, and Remy Ma alone. And Tasha K's message, cutting through every layer of PR polish and expensive packaging, is simple. He is still married. He is still handling 3 simultaneous situations at once. He is still sending the cease and desists that keep proving the underlying allegations. He is still spiraling in ways that keep expanding the exact story he is trying to shrink into nothing. And through every single layer of this, Papoose has still not backed off. Not for a day. Not for a full news cycle. Not for a weekend. Not to take a single breath. He is not laying low. He is not going dark. He is not quietly regrouping and planning a strategic comeback with a PR team behind closed doors. He is still posting. He is still making moves. He is still showing up in places where he could have very easily chosen not to show up. And that is the part people are specifically talking about when they say Papoose is spiraling in public. Because public spirals are not always loud, dramatic meltdowns on live stream with tears and screaming and thrown chairs. Sometimes a public spiral looks like a man who keeps performing normalcy while the timeline is on fire around him. Sometimes it looks like an attorney letter mailed to the exact person telling the truth. Sometimes it looks like total, complete silence on the one name that actually matters most. Sometimes it looks like showing up smiling in a photo shoot the day after your wife confirmed on record that you allegedly put hands on her. That is the shape of a slow-motion collapse. That is exactly what an unraveling in real time looks like when the person unraveling still believes the audience genuinely cannot see it happening in front of them. And Tasha K sees it. The audience sees it. The comment sections see it. The reply guys see it. The gossip pages see it. The blogs see it. The morning radio shows see it. The only person who does not seem to see it, or is actively refusing to see it, is Papoose himself. Which is exactly what makes this entire story so far from over. The moves Papoose has left to make matter now more than the moves Papoose has already made, because every single next move is going to determine whether this becomes a full career-ending event or just the loudest, messiest chapter of a story that keeps writing itself in real time whether Papoose wants it to or not. And if the pattern of the last 6 weeks is any indicator of the next 6, the odds are stacked against the man in the corner right now. So here is the entire picture the way it currently sits on the table in front of us tonight. According to Tasha K, backed by the alleged footage, the alleged audio, the alleged messages, the alleged screenshots, and the on-camera confirmations from Remy Ma herself, Papoose has been running 3 parallel lanes at the exact same time for years now. Remy Ma legally, on the paperwork nobody wanted to talk about. Claressa Shields publicly, on the photo carousels everyone was busy screenshotting. Toseki privately, on the phone nobody was supposed to ever unlock. Each of them serving a specific, calculated function inside an arrangement that was never designed to become common knowledge on the timeline. Every time Papoose has tried to shut down the story with an attorney letter, the letter itself has become the evidence. Every time Papoose has tried to hide behind silence, the silence has become the tell. Every time Papoose has tried to control the narrative from the top down, the narrative has controlled him harder from the bottom up. Every time. The fight appearance sold to the world as the ultimate proof of romance turned out to be a booking with an invoice attached and a paycheck cleared afterwards in a bank account he probably shares with an accountant. The warm messages allegedly sent to Toseki are sitting side by side with the cold, transactional ones allegedly sent to Claressa in a comparison that speaks louder than any statement Papoose could ever draft. The cease and desist Papoose's lawyer sent to Tasha K got completely neutralized by his own wife the second she opened her mouth on camera. The divorce that was supposed to be a routine formality by now is still, right now, in this exact moment, completely unfinalized, meaning the woman the public sees as his partner is legally still the woman on the outside of a marriage that never officially ended in any courtroom in any borough. Tasha K has exposed all of it. Toseki has trended again. Papoose is spiraling with absolutely no exit visible in any direction. And Tasha K has been extremely clear that this is not the last drop coming. There is more coming. More footage. More audio. More screenshots. More names. More paperwork. More dates. More timestamps. More context. More proof. Subscribe so you are already in the room the exact second the next receipt hits the timeline, because based on the pattern of every single drop Tasha K has already landed, what is still sitting in the queue is going to hit harder than everything you just heard put together. And when the next one drops, you will not have to wait to figure out what is real and what is spin from a PR agency running interference. You will already know. You will already be one full step ahead of the news cycle. You will already have the full context nobody else on your entire timeline is going to have when the notifications start firing across every app at once. That is what keeps you sharp in a media environment engineered to keep you confused. That is what keeps you sitting in the front row of a story the algorithm is going to push to every corner of the internet over the next 7 days. That is why you are here. That is why you keep coming back to this couch. That is why the tea from this cup tastes different than the tea being poured everywhere else on the timeline tonight. And before you scroll, before you close this tab, before you get pulled into the next thing your feed serves you, sit with this one final beat, because it is going to matter more than any single sentence in the last 20 minutes. Papoose is not the first man to run this exact play, and he will not be the last. But he is the first one being caught in real time by a receipt operation that does not sleep, does not blink, and does not miss. Tasha K did not build this over a weekend. Tasha K built this over years. Years of sources. Years of tips. Years of screenshots forwarded from people who were tired of watching the same movie play out with the same script and different actresses. And every one of those years is now compressed into a queue of drops that is going to run on Tasha K's schedule, not Papoose's, not his attorneys, not his PR teams. The pace is set. The order is locked. The receipts are queued up. And the only variable left is how many more envelopes Papoose is willing to mail before he finally understands the envelopes are the problem, not the solution. So the next time you see Papoose in a photo smiling like nothing is happening, remember what you just watched. The next time you see Claressa Shields defending the relationship in an interview, remember what you just watched. The next time you hear a rumor that the divorce is about to be finalized, remember what you just watched. And the next time Tasha K's name pops up in a headline with the words, new footage, or new audio, or just dropped, attached to it, do not scroll past. Click. Open. Watch. Because that headline is not going to be a rerun. That headline is going to be the next chapter of a story that is still writing itself in front of the entire internet, and you are going to want to be in the room when the pen hits the paper. That is the pour. That is the whole cup. That is the truth being served hot the way only this couch serves it. See you the second the next one drops. Now let us slow down and put a magnifying glass on the piece of this story that most people are not thinking about hard enough, because it is the piece that connects every other piece. The timeline. Not the social media timeline. The actual chronological order of when things happened. Because when you lay the events out in the order they actually occurred, the innocent man defense collapses on its own, without Tasha K having to say a single additional word. Papoose files for divorce in May of 2025. Papoose is spotted publicly with Claressa Shields inside the same window. Papoose starts appearing at Claressa's fights inside the same window. Papoose is allegedly building the Toseki situation inside the same window. Every one of these events is running on the same clock, in the same year, in the same 12 months. There is no cooling off period. There is no reset. There is no clean break where one relationship ended before the next one began. It is all happening at the same time, in the same city, on the same phone, from the same man. And when you see it laid out that way, in a straight line, in the order it actually occurred, the "we are just separated" defense stops meaning what Papoose wants it to mean and starts meaning something much closer to what Tasha K has been saying it means from day one. And here is another beat inside the timeline that Papoose does not want people connecting. The cease and desist Papoose sent to Tasha K was not the first cease and desist Papoose has sent. It was not the second. There is a pattern of Papoose using legal letters as a first-line PR weapon, and that pattern predates Tasha K by years. Remy Ma has spoken about it. Other commentators have spoken about it. It is on the record. Which means Papoose has been using the same tool for the same job for a long time, and the tool has been working just often enough to justify pulling it out again every time a new story starts to build momentum. Except this time, the tool is not working. This time, the tool is doing the exact opposite of what it was designed to do. Every letter that goes out increases the trending numbers on the story it was designed to bury. Every letter that goes out gives Tasha K a fresh reason to trend for a second, third, fourth wave. Every letter that goes out is a free promotional push for the very content the letter was drafted to erase. And Papoose, according to everyone who has watched this pattern play out, does not appear to be updating his strategy in response to the new reality. Which is why the word spiraling keeps coming up. Because spiraling, at its most technical definition, is repeating a losing strategy under increasing pressure, while the pressure gets worse specifically because of the strategy you are repeating. And then there is Claressa Shields, and we owe her a moment of clean, honest analysis here, because the takes on her have been all over the map, and most of them are missing the middle. Claressa Shields is not a villain in this story. Claressa Shields is not a fool in this story. Claressa Shields is a woman who fell for a very carefully constructed presentation, and the presentation was constructed by a man with years of practice constructing exactly that kind of presentation for exactly that kind of woman. That is not a Claressa flaw. That is a Papoose specialty. The blame math on this one does not distribute evenly. The blame math on this one leans hard in one direction, and that direction is the man who was legally married the entire time he was making Claressa believe she was building a future with a free man. That is the actual center of the story. That is the piece that Tasha K keeps circling back to, and that is the piece that no amount of PR polish can spin away, because the paperwork is public, the courtroom is public, and the marriage license is public. And if you have been listening carefully all the way through this breakdown, you already know what the next drop from Tasha K is probably going to be about. Because Tasha K does not drop randomly. Tasha K drops in a sequence. The sequence has a logic. The logic starts with the paid appearance reframe, moves through the tonal contrast messages, escalates to the cease and desist backfire, mythologizes into the pattern, and then, right when the story looks like it might cool off, drops the piece of evidence that reopens every single loop at the same time. Based on what she has said publicly, based on what she has hinted at in her lives, based on the pacing of every previous receipt drop she has ever done, the next drop is going to be one of two things. Either audio nobody has heard yet, or footage nobody has seen yet, and either one of those is going to run for a full 72 hours minimum on every gossip channel that has a working microphone. That is the pace. That is the plan. And you are going to want to be in the room when it happens, not chasing the story after the fact. So one more time, for the row in the back, so nobody leaves this couch confused about where the receipts actually sit. Papoose is still legally married to Remy Ma right now. The paperwork is not signed. The judge has not ruled. The decree is not entered. That is not an opinion, that is a court record. Papoose was allegedly running a hidden relationship with Toseki while publicly performing romance with Claressa Shields, and the messages Tasha K is holding allegedly prove the tone of one relationship was warm and the tone of the other was transactional. Papoose sent a cease and desist to Tasha K denying the pool incident with Remy Ma, and then Remy Ma personally confirmed the incident on camera in her own voice, on record, out loud. Papoose has answered every accusation in this saga except the ones from Tasha K specifically, and that specific silence is the loudest evidence in the case. And Tasha K has more coming. More footage. More audio. More screenshots. More names. And every single drop that has already landed suggests the next one is going to hit harder than the last. That is the whole picture. That is the full pour. And one more layer before we close the folder for tonight, because there is a piece of context that ties every single beat of this story into one clean, undeniable, courtroom-ready through line. Tasha K is not the only person watching Papoose right now. The whole industry is watching. Every rapper who thought Papoose was a stand-up guy is watching. Every promoter who wrote him a check for a ringside appearance is watching. Every podcast host who gave him a chair and a microphone is watching. Every stylist, every manager, every publicist at every label he ever wanted a look from is watching. And that industry-wide gaze is going to matter more in the next 30 days than the fan-side gaze has mattered in the last 30. Because industry people do not react to the story. Industry people react to the pattern. And the pattern being exposed right now is not a Papoose problem in isolation. The pattern being exposed right now is a business risk being calculated on a spreadsheet inside a conference room Papoose is not sitting in. Bookings are being paused. Introductions are being cancelled. Meetings are being pushed. The math on Papoose is being redone in real time by people who never planned to have this conversation and are now being forced to have it because Tasha K put the numbers on the table. That is what the industry side of a public unraveling actually looks like. Nobody says anything out loud. And the next time Papoose reaches for a room he used to walk into unannounced, the door is going to be closed, and there is not going to be a note on it explaining why. So keep your eyes on the timeline. Keep your notifications on. Keep this couch in your subscription feed. Because the second Tasha K posts the next receipt, the second Remy Ma opens her mouth again, the second Claressa Shields drops the polite silence and finally addresses this directly, the second Toseki decides she is done being the quiet name in someone else's controversy, this whole story is going to detonate in a new direction, and you are going to want to hear it broken down here first, straight from this cup, before anyone else on your timeline even knows the notification went out. That is the whole picture. That is the whole cup. See you the second the next envelope hits.